Hello and welcome to Garage Prospecting. I'm one of your hosts, Shelley Carney.
And I'm the other of your hosts, Toby. Thanks for joining us tonight. Before we get started with tonight's show, I have to make some announcements. As usual, you know that I always do that. First, I'm going to add our crawl down there so you know what's going on. I would appreciate it if before you leave tonight, you like our video. YouTube likes it when you like our video. Share it with your family, your friends, your neighbors, the entirety of your social net, your business associates, the entirety of your social networks so that we can grow the channel. Finally, if you are not already a subscriber, this would be the ideal time to click on that subscribe button. When you see the notifications bell, click on that as well. And that way, every time we start a live stream, you'll be immediately informed and as a result in the know. And there's nothing better in life, ladies and gentlemen, than being in the know. Finally, if you're watching this after we do the live stream, please feel free to comment or ask questions in the comment section below this video. Another reminder, please, the super chat light is lit. So if you'd like to make a contribution to our project, you can go down to the bottom of the chat window and you'll see a stylized dollar bill sign thing. Click on that dollar bill sign and the good folks at YouTube will walk you through the process of making a contribution to our project, which goes not immediately into our bank account. They take their cut and then we get it. Hey, just want to say hi to Brian Gates, who's joining us, who not only joins us on this channel, but joins us on our other channel. I've got to get YouTube Premium on this one. What? Oh,
Skip the ad.
Skip the ad. Thank you. Okay, it's catching up with us. All right. Who are we talking about today?
You're looking at me like you don't know.
Okay, I know.
You're the one that scheduled it.
So I scheduled a special guest whose name is Colter Young. Colter owns a company called miningmagnets.com. We're going to talk about that. You'll see his link in the scroll, the banner below us. But the reason I wanted to talk to him is because when I took an interest in this idea of prospecting for gold, I was watching videos related to the topic, and I saw several videos. Not as much of Colter, but of people using his products. And I thought to myself, that'd be a good place to start. And because somebody has gone through the trouble of making his products. So I went over to his website and I found out there that he prints all his products. He 3D prints all his products. He has designed them and he prints them 3D. He assembles them and he ships them out directly to you. And that further impressed me with his work. So I wanted to bring him on. I bought at least 2 of his products. I also bought some pay dirt from him, and he sent me a couple of free gifts so that we can give away, not tonight because this is about him, but I wanted to meet him, and I wanted to take the opportunity to show him what I had done so far with his products in a pretty much amateur, fumble-fingered kind of way. But I want him to see it, and I want his advice. But first, we want to talk to him about how he got to be where he is. So let me bring Colter on right now. Hey, Colter.
Howdy.
So I didn't introduce you when you first came on a while ago. This is my business partner and best friend, Shelley Carney. So when you hear me talking about Shelley, that's her. So first of all, tell us, if you don't mind, whereabouts you're located.
Oh, yeah. I'm in Boise, Idaho.
Okay. And you have a company called Mining Magnets. Tell us a little bit about how that company got its start and where it is right now.
Okay. That's a good question. Sometimes I ask that all the time of myself.
Yeah.
What really got the company started was I have a background in mechanical engineering, and I've got patents in the related fields, French fry industry, curly fry. I reinvented the curly fry machine. Used to invent fire trucks. I used to do industrial automation, so like beer factories and city municipalities. But I really thought to myself, like, why am I making all these other people rich? I mean, I just, as an engineer, you do 100 things, you do 99 of them % right, you get one thing wrong, and that's all you really get, remembered for. And and on the other hand, you got sales guys that sell things that don't even exist, and the engineers got to cover the difference. And actually went into sales for a while. So it's true. It's definitely true. It's all you got to do is get the money coming in, and they love you for it.
Right.
But really, I had a chance to kind of just, I just started my own consulting company for some of these food processing guys. I did a lot of fluid flow analysis on the computer, um, looking at optimizing flow rates, and ended up, just having access to really expensive software that could simulate fluid motion. And I got into gold prospecting, and I said, nobody has changed gold mining since like 1950, or
Mm-hmm.
it's just, the gold pan's been around for a real long time.
Mm-hmm.
And um I thought to myself, what a perfect industry to get into that, hasn't even been touched. I mean, I'm sure, my competitors might watch this video and they say, well, what about us? But I mean, sluice is the sluice,
Right.
it's been around forever. Some of the newer mats have really made some sluices look good, in my opinion. But there are, better sluices than others, more efficient sluices than others. Water jigs, water tables, shaker tables, Miller tables, you name it. I mean, there's just, but all this stuff, it's been around for over 100 years, and nobody's ever used software, 3D software analysis to, streamline this process
Mm-hmm.
and figure it out. And so I figured, everybody else is in the industry's old, they're about getting out of it, and there's no young blood. So I said, gosh, what a perfect opportunity for somebody to get into. Um and so I had a 3D printer that, I used, and I with the fluid flow modeling and, advanced modeling that I'm able to do, I just thought that 3D printing was the perfect way to get these revolutionary new shapes and new designs that have, that couldn't have been even made in, before. There's, injection molding and CNC machining. You're basically taking material away from an object,
Mm-hmm.
and that has, limitations. You've got, we're like, say talking about computerized control machining. You can only really remove something in kind of a straight line.
Right.
So curved shapes, curved undersides of things, and that's not even possible. And a lot of engineers will design things that can't be made. And so I was, as an engineer for a long time, I understood the things that could and couldn't be made, and I just saw, 3D printing, can handle some of these, like, if you look at like pump impellers and valve bodies, they're very complex shapes. And so to be able to take the complex, fluid flow simulation and marry it with this complex shape, and have the computer help solve that problem in an iterative process, I really thought that 3D printing has to be the solution. And I hadn't seen anybody, really before me come along, make functional 3D printed parts. And it's really because 3D printing, you're really limited to kind of low impact, stuff that's got to be out of the sun. It's just kind of the marrying of the other components. And so I kind of really recognize that as, you don't want to 3D print your screws, you don't want to 3D print your bolts. You buy bolts and you put them in your 3D printed parts. And so I I figured I'd take it to the next level. And I also noticed that 3D printing has no upfront cost. So I could go from my first design to my 15th iteration of that same part without having to buy any other tooling.
Mhm.
And so I just looked at 3D printing thinking, gosh, this is, it's there, and I started posting my products online, and it's like, gosh, I was a pioneer, man. You go on any YouTubing channel right now and there's 3D printed, scoopers and 3D printed pans and 3D printed, necklaces and stuff. So, I feel like I was the first person to just really recognize that, and it started a movement. There's now a 3D printing gold prospecting group out there now.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of how it all kind of formed together was, I was looking for a product that was relatively inexpensive to produce. I was able to produce each one with the printer versus print the mold with the printer and use the mold to make more. I
Mhm.
wanted to be able to make the actual part with the printer. I wanted it to be able to evolve very quickly. And so that's just kind of how it all started. My first 3D printed part was a water jig that it swirl. I call it the Swirlizer 9000, just because why not?
Why
Like
not?
a lot of my stuff that I design has weird names like the roly
Roly
poly,
poly.
and it all has a real meaning to it.
Yeah.
If you think the roly poly is a spinning magnet, where the poles of the magnet roll,
Right.
and I've got the auger and the gosh, what else I have? Drawing a blank here, but all my products just what is a catchy name. Um, and so that's kind of how I got into it. I discovered early on a technique to basically manipulate or persuade magnetite up and out of your pan from underneath the gold pan.
Mhm.
And when I saw that, I actually was, I put a magnet, at the gold, try to get the magnetite out with my gold pan, just I as a beginner, gosh, this is hard stuff, and you're using the magnet, you stick the magnet on and it just grabs everything, even the gold.
Right.
And I said, this is not going to work. So I tried, I had a magnet under the pan and I kind of twisted it and I saw the little spikes come up over and around. And I said, that's pretty neat. And I, twisted it around and I noticed that once would go over and then I twisted it again and it would move. It would like walk around down the pan. And I kind of noticed it and I said, well, that's kind of tedious, and I just kind of put it on the back burner. And then one time I had a really strong magnet. It got stuck to my drill and I was drilling next to a gold pan and I saw this magnetite just whoop, 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 just dance off the pan. And so I said, gosh, I'm going to try to make something like that. And my first product was I literally 3D printed a sleeve that a magnet slips in and in a drill adapter fits into that. And I sold them for $10 and it took off like wildfire. I mean, I sold, it's kind of, I sold probably 200 the first month that I was in business, and now I'm on to something, it actually works, So then I, put the website up and started putting some posts out, and, it took a while to be profitable, and it unfortunately took me longer to realize that I wasn't profitable than I should have.
Mhm.
So my whole first year was, kind of this, kind of ignorance is bliss state where, I'm just sort of making stuff and printing it and just shipping envelopes out and getting reviews and like, where did all my money go?
Yeah.
Like,
Just like gold prospecting.
yeah. And so I I said to myself, okay, I'm selling 1,000 of these things, just to make, or 100 of these things just to make $1,000. I
Right.
need to make more expensive stuff.
Yeah.
And um, and so that also got me into the community of gold prospectors, and it allowed me to, have these conversations with guys that are out in the field, and have these conversations with the seasoned pros that, and listen to what they need, listen to what they want. I feel like there's a lot of guys out there that are inventors that just fall in love with their product, and that it just dies because the people that buy it don't love as much as the person that owns it, or
Mhm.
makes it. So my thing is that I will change the product, the next day. And it's that easy. I just go on the computer, a couple clicks, and I send it to my printer and start printing them that look like that. And the first thing that really got me going was they wanted bigger magnet. The first magnet was, this big, and I wanted something that I could take to a gold show, and I knew that people would hit up the ATM, they'd get $40 out, 20 for
Yeah.
lunch,
Right.
and they wanted just some spending money. And that was where I was just targeting that spending money. I thought to myself, these guys, they want to bring home a widget, some sort of a tool, some trinket, something that does something cool. So the tool is called the Magic Fit, because it just looks magic. It's just goes, and it's just awesome the way that it works. Now that I think about it, I probably should have named it Magnet Fit, but but that's just what
Hey.
happened, and I went to my first gold show, and I came back with a lot of 20s this big, Actually, they were sold for 18, and I realized that it was harder for people to break the 20 than it was. So I just upped the price $2 more, and it was sold way faster,
Right.
and people were happy. And and that's where it started. All the time I get people, "Oh, I saw you at that gold show," or, so I feel like I got a lot of people just that entry level tool, into the hobby or prospecting community, or the lifestyle, or the job, or whatever you want to call it. And so that was kind of the starting point, was just a small magnet, and then I just went bigger, got to a big magnet and put a 70-pound magnet on that. And the prospectors that can hold 100-pound gold pan full of mud and muck and whatnot, those guys really liked it. But a lot of my customers are also, retired and or disabled. So that holding the magnet under the gold pan, it just became too much force for the person to want to hold apart. So the next version I came out with was, I call it the roly poly, and it bolts down to the table, and you hold your gold pan with two hands. And that was, that was a good hit, big hit. And so then I thought to myself, well, this is kind of a batch process. This is something where they gotta put the material in, run a batch, remove the material, put another batch of material in. And what could I do to make this thing run as a through process? So it's first in, first out kind of thing.
Right.
And so let me shut the door real quick.
Okay.
So that's the product you have. You've got probably the 50th iteration of the dry separator. If you go on YouTube right now, you'll probably see all different colors, all different flavors of this thing.
Right.
And one of the more popular ones was this little kind of green version that I still get people asking me for that thing. And I'm like, no, you want the new one. Trust me, it works way better. I'm like, no, I want the green one. And I mean, I could probably put the green one on and sell out again.
Right.
It's that popular. But it doesn't. There's changes that I felt needed to be made, and I used it in the field quite a bit. I took it all over, the west side of the Rocky Mountains, and we've got a lot of magnetite here, so it was a good place to test it out. Places like Cape Disappointment, where the sand is just black.
Right.
like Lake Superior, they've got a lot of magnetite over there. Arizona is real popular, and so I took it, to these places, or got samples of it, or send it to people in the area, and I said, hey, try this out, and I just, took the lashings, this sucks, the battery doesn't fit, this and that. And I'm like, okay, I'm mostly taking notes, and I mostly drive all the way out there, and I had this pile of junk by the time I got home, because this is how you make a good product. You just break it a lot, and
Right.
you just learn from it, and there are no shortcuts. You just got to get back up, and you got to try it again, and so the dry separator is, a very good product. It works. It does what it's supposed to, but it's only for people who have a lot of magnetite, and the population of people in the world that have a lot of magnetite is quite small when you compare it to coffee as a product. I mean, it's
Yeah. Yeah.
addictive. It costs less than $5.
Well, let me interrupt for just a second, because for those that are watching tonight and maybe watching this video in the future, explain what role magnetite plays in the process of prospecting for gold, and why it's so important to separate it. Would you explain that so that our folks?
Yeah, that's kind of a complex question, but I will do my best to answer it. First, you really want to, if you're a prospector, you really want to study. You really want to study the minerals in the area, and if you understand anything about geology, and where the minerals come from, uh, you don't just get one mineral.
Mhm.
You get just, a, a, a rainbow of minerals, let's just say, and some of them are more prevalent than others, and they are exposed to the surface, brought to the surface by the same geologic elements, or the same geologic events that are
Mhm.
there, but depending on what's, being melted up and recycled from the earth's, top couple inches of layer, that's, we talk about, um it 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 could be, anything. So what since the core of the earth's really made out of iron, magnetite is kind of the best indicator metal, that you're near these events that produce and leach out and accumulate gold. And um, so when you're out, prospecting for gold, you really want to pay attention to these indicator minerals. And iron is a good indicator mineral. It's heavy like gold. So so if there's gold in the area, iron, or I call iron and magnetite kind of the same thing.
Mhm.
It it will accumulate in the same sort of stretch of river, or the same area. So when you're digging along, and you find yourself, going from, super light blonde sands to all of a sudden magnetite, hematite, heavy minerals, like, that would just have the similar densities as gold, they will fall out of solution, in the same areas. Say if you're going down a river, and you just dumped a thing of sand and minerals in there, the light sand will just carry on down the river and end up at the ocean, and the gold will drop right away, and the magnetite will drop a little off, a little bit later. But but what magnetite does is, and it's not everywhere, right? So you could have the same forces.
Yeah.
In some places there be magnetite, in some places there'll be, hematite. And so people confuse all the time black sand with magnetite, and it magnetite is black sand, but not all black sand is magnetite. So where I live in Idaho, we have a lot of magnetite. And when I was designing my, one size fit all solution that I was in love with, that, I didn't know there was any other way. I was trying to get out this specific mineral.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until I sold a lot of these to people and they call me up and say, hey, your thing doesn't work at all. Like, is the motor spinning?
Yeah.
Like, is it plugged in? I mean, what do you mean it doesn't work? When I put it in, it's awesome. So,
Right.
so that's, kind of some of the hurdles that I had with this machine. And so, kind of, hopefully answering your question, and maybe does that answer your question at all?
Well, where I was going,
Right.
you answered the first part of it, but the reason that anyone would want to remove magnetite, especially when there's a lot of it, like the ores in Idaho, from whatever they're doing, from their prospecting, is because you have to wash it away. It prevents you from getting to the gold, right? You have to move the magnetite out of the way, and you can either do that with water, hydrodynamically, even in a pan, or you can use this magnetic device and it'll help you remove it. Before we go on, I want to address some of the questions in some of the comments and questions. So our friend Brian Gates says, perseverance and hard work pays off. Good for you. He was referring to your effort of stick-to-itiveness until you got it right. 15 iterations of the dry electromagnetic separator. Brian also says, I have my eyes on a few of Colter's products. Thought it would be great to share gold prospecting with my grandkids, nephews, and nieces. And it would be. They love it. I've done it with my grandchildren. And don't forget, Brian, Colter offers a couple of coupons. If you're a veteran, you can use the coupon veteran and get a 15% discount. Or if you're not a veteran, you can use the coupon garage and get a 10% discount. Mary says Lake Superiors were prospected back in the 80s or 90s, where she prospected back. What was that you mentioned, a seashore, the one in Washington?
Cape Disappointment.
Cape Disappointment, yeah. So they just changed the rules there. There's a lot of YouTubers going on and on about how they changed the rules on them. So your product, I think, is going to be more important to them. So our friend Sparkplug says hi. We haven't seen him in a while. He says, hello, Toby and Shelley. Long time. It has been a long time, almost 3 years. Yeah.
Hi, guys. From my end, Brian, Mary, Sparkplug.
Thank you. So I have put, if you'll look at the crawl below us, I have put Colter's, the address of his website. We're going to take a look at it in just a moment and talk about it. And I also put the coupon codes in there as well. So let me pop over. I'm going to add a screen here. Just give me a second. And we're going to share that screen right there. And what I wanted to do was, I want you to talk just a little bit about the various products. I'm going to talk about the ones that I bought anyway, but here's Colter's list of products. And this is the one that we've been talking about so far, the dry electromagnetic separator with lights and adjustable power supply. I bought one of those, and we're going to show it to you in a little while. This is his Frontier sluice, and it sits on a tripod, and you can take it out into the field. It's designed to go out into the field. And there's a video of him using this in Arizona, if I remember correctly. And he's running it through a recirculating system, because the area that he's in, like New Mexico, there's not a lot of water near where the placer gold deposits are. So you've got to take your own water. In some places, they don't let you use the water, even if there is. So this is a sluice that will work in a tub, basically a recirculating system that he designed it. So this I thought was very cool. It's is that your son?
Yep, that's my 11-year-old.
Yeah, so he designed a sluice in what is effectively a toolbox, so kids can actually learn how to prospect for gold in this toolbox. So I want to get them for all my grandchildren for next Christmas.
It's funny because I get comments all the time like, can it be a grandma kit or a grandpa kit? Like, because it's like nobody really loses that inner kid,
Yeah, that wants to play. I think that's part of what I'm kind of going through. with the approach that we're taking to it. It's kind of like, well, this is fun. It's fun finding gold. So that's his Frontier tripod-based sluice. This I didn't even know was necessary. An Affordable Jones representative sample splitter. Didn't even. I saw you your new video on it today. Didn't even know there was a need, but I guess it's important for people who are prospecting for mining claims eventually, and they need to get reasonable tests on their samples, and they need to divide those samples equally in order to provide them to the various assay houses and laboratories. So that's actually a thing. You always hear about these things as if they are happening in the 1890s. They happen today. So this is the cleanup sluice. Let me show you that because I bought one. This is the compact cleanup sluice. Now, I had planned by this time to have this mounted on what is referred to as a wash plant, and I got busy and I didn't get to it. But I promised Colter that we're going to have it by next week. It also has lights in here. Oops, I got facing the other way. Hold on. So did I put the battery in here? No, I didn't put the battery in.
Never mind.
Never mind. Would have been good. Anyway, so this works in a tub, not in a tub. The wash plant that I'm building has a platform. It's going to sit on the platform. It has an 1,100 gallon per hour pump that it comes with. You put that in the water, and it washes your findings, your concentrates through the wash plant. And what happens is the gold, if there is any, ends up in that mat there. And that's a new style of mat. It's very popular right now. It's called the
Dream
mat. Is that right?
Right.
And
Yep.
and it was invented. There's a Dream Mat channel on YouTube, and it was invented by a gentleman who must have studied hydrodynamics. I guess is that what he is? And he made it up, and it's very popular, and people are adapting it to their various sluices. All the major manufacturers are. So this adventure sluice is not yours. That is actually another manufacturer's, or did you?
That's the Dream Mat.
Oh, adventure. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
And then he just started producing this custom gold cleanup pan with classifier kit. I just ordered that. So there's the original. That's the magic bit with case and 3. That's the original product, still selling, ladies and gentlemen, for $18.
Yep, still sell it. It's a great. If you're gonna try it out, something small, something cheap, grab that thing. Yeah, it's.
Yeah. So he sent us one of those to give away.
Does that
once we
video
get
work right there? Does the video on that work? If you click
Let's see.
I think that. Yeah, why don't you try to play that? I think this would just really sum up everything. It's like
Okay, hold on. So what I've got to do is I've got to go back. I'm gonna remove this just for a second, and I've got to go back and add it and tell it that we want to hear the audio. So just give me 1 second to present and share screen and share with system audio. There we go. Man, I'm glad you remind me of that every time. Okay.
Add to screen.
Add to screen. There we go. All right, here we go. Oh, hold on.
I wanted to check in with you for this quarantine experience. I see a lot of people comparing the magic bit to a gold magnet. It is not the same thing as a gold magnet or a plunger magnet, and I'll show you why. I've got some gold sitting right here in this container, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to activate the magnet, and I'm going to go into the area where the gold and black sand is, and I'm going to move over to the magnet, and I'm going to come and I'm going to drop some of this material right here. All right, so there are a lot of people say that you can just make one of it for less than $10. Yeah, you can. This costs $10, and you can be cheaper than that. But I want to show you why you don't want to do that. Yes, you did get a lot of this black sand out of this pile of gold, but what is happening here is that as this iron comes up to the magnet, it actually grabs a little bit of gold with it. Let's see if you even see it. Oh man, get in focus. You can see a few little flakes. Now, put it down right here. I'll show you using a magic bit. Now this is also a magnet, and it spins. It has the poles facing perpendicular to the axes, and I'm going to spin it around. Now I want to show you why this sort of magnet is a better tool than this sort of magnet.
Killing me.
Watch, and you be the judge. Why? And I'm going to spin it. Okay. Now watch what happens. That's it. Okay, so this right here, I sell them on my website for $10. They work just as good as you are at watching how good it works. I don't know what else to tell you. There's no guarantee, but they work better than something that works like this.
So what I like about Colter's videos is they seem like they're very real world. Like he goes like, I need to make a video, does this, and he sticks his phone over here and he makes sure that he's in the screen, and then he shows you what he's trying to show you. But that was your first product, right?
Yeah.
That's
Sorry,
the one.
I wanted to give a little of my kind of background, and that video does well. You know, I'm just some, Yahoo with a magnet.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think you have to appreciate the fact that, one of the things that I've noticed about even in my conversations with you is you can always hear the 3D printers in the background operating all, just going to town, creating whatever your products are. So, all right. So this is the dry electromagnetic separator, and this is the product that I bought. That thing right there is the roly-poly. And it's the one that he designed so you could put it, screw it down to a work surface and you could pass your pen over it. And then he started expanding on it. And I've watched several videos, none of which are the iteration that I bought. They're all older variations as he went through the process, and they worked. But with each, I don't know whether it was a criticism or complaint, people would say, oh, you need to do this and you need to do that. And because, as Colter said, he's 3D printing and not having to make up a whole new set of tools in order to manufacture them, he just basically redesigns them on the CAD system on his computer and reprints and starts printing them again. So this is the model that I got. We're going to see a video of me using it here because I want Colter to comment on how good or bad I'm doing, because like everything else in life, when you've never done anything like this before in your life, and I haven't, I didn't even know. I knew what magnetite was because when I was with the World Sand Project, we used to show the amount of magnetite that was in the various samples from all over the world. Some samples had a lot, some samples had none. But we always made it a point because it was a thing, magnetite in the sample. So that's as close as I've ever come to using this. But I want to show this video. And then I'd like Colter, and Colter, you're welcome to stop anywhere along the way, or you go, I think it's like 8 minutes long. But it's me attempting to use the product that I bought from you, along with this. But I'm saving this video for next week so you can come back and tell me how I'm messing that up as well.
Can you scroll down just a little bit to it says dielectromagnetic separator?
We lost you right there. Hold on. Sit back a little bit from your screen. Now, go ahead and say it again.
Can you scroll down a little bit? It says dry electromagnetic separator with, detachable. Okay, so you got the one with the detachable power supply. All right, just checking.
Yeah, yes, I did. So I did want to do that. Okay, so let me remove this from the screen. And then we're going to bring up this video here, and it's going to start as soon as I open it. Okay, but this is me using the product and with a camera overhead, and it was kind of the first time, and it looks like the first time. And actually, it wasn't the first time. This was about my, I don't know, 10th time remaking this video because each time I'd go through and I'd make another mistake. So, all right. There we go. So let's watch this. Hey everybody, this is Toby with Garage Prospecting, and today I'm going to be running a test on the dry electromagnetic separator sold by Mining Magnets. In order to do that, I am running a package of their pay dirt that I received from them. It is Mining Magnets pay dirt, and they call this their Idaho Dredge Concentrates. And when I got it, it weighed 1 pound. I put it through a 20 mesh screen, and I have 10 7/8 ounces, almost 11 ounces left. So there's still another 5 ounces in there that I'll put through the mini sluice, the cleanup sluice. I have a couple of things. Number one, I paid for all of this, so this is not a sponsored advertisement. I bought this from Colter. I did take advantage of the veterans discount, but I paid for all of it. So I'll try to do this as honestly as I can. There is a light in here that runs on a 9-volt battery, so I've turned that on so you guys can see what's happening. That's going to be the magnetic side. This, of course, is the roly-poly, and it is powered by this adapter. I'm using the 12-volt adapter because I feel like I'm not ready for 24 volts and big funnels and things like that. I kind of want to take it easy. There is, as you can see here, there is lots of magnetic material in there. So we'll see if we can get that out and see how much we can get out. All right. Let's get that out of the way, put this here, and then we'll turn this on. So I do want to mention that this is going to take me longer than after you get good at using this. I've seen Colter do this, and it doesn't take him near half as long as it did me. And that's for a variety of reasons, including I used, low settings. I poured it slowly. I didn't rush it. So if you're looking at this and saying, wow, that really takes a long time, that's me. That's not Colter's product. Okay.
I also, before you go, I want to add that it took me, my first time, let's just say, 3 years and 100 iterations before this. So, I might make it look easy, but that's all the camera sees. So,
all right. Okay. Well, I'll get better. I promise. I'm hoping that you can still hear me. If this gets to the point where it's taking longer than I expected, I'll just simply speed it up and then have a conversation with you as soon as I'm done. Get this stuff mixed up. You'll be able to see the magnetite right in here. So I'll stop here. Keep an eye on this, Colter, because I was having trouble getting the 20 mesh to go through the smallest of
I can see that. It's definitely getting hung up in the funnel there.
Yeah. And I thought, well, I could go up a funnel. I could go to the medium funnel. But when I tried that, it seemed like it was going through the material on the magnetic side. So
you want to go to the 30 mesh.
30 mesh for this?
Well, if it gets stuck in the funnel like that, probably go into the 30 mesh screen, the smaller screen.
Yeah, I do have one. I'll try that the next time.
Yeah.
I seem to have to kickstart this the small funnel. And see the magnetite.
It's starting to move.
Mm-hmm, yeah. So for those of you that can't quite see it, the magnetite is being dumped into the beaker, the lower beaker, and the clean material is being dumped into the upper beaker. Side and there. The separation is occurring, as you can see, on the lighted side there.
Looks like you got it going though.
Yeah. But every time I added new material to it, it would slow up a little bit.
Right. Yeah, one thing you might want to try is using the larger funnel and then taking the ultra high concentrate and putting it into the smaller funnel.
Okay. So I speeded this up a little bit, you can tell.
Yeah. It's definitely doing what it's supposed to be doing, other than the funnel being a little tight.
It is, once I solved that problem, like I said, that was the only thing.
Yeah.
I think I was thinking about just running a little round jeweler's file through it, maybe smooth it out just a little bit.
I don't know whether it's that a full load is putting
Yeah,
additional
you can,
pressure on the neck of the funnel,
so sometimes you can get like a really
or maybe
skinny, like stick. Or
I just need to
something.
kind of smooth that funnel out using a small jeweler's file, just smooth it out a little bit. But it seems to need the occasional little bit of help. And of course, if I wanted to, I could use the medium-sized funnel,
Yeah.
which has a bigger neck. But I'm trying to take it slow and easy, simply because I haven't done this before and I don't want to lose anything.
Yeah, so you could use the medium funnel that's in there, run everything through, and then put the small funnel in, and then run what's in that black puddle, the second one.
A second time.
A second time with only the little funnel in,
Right.
and that will cut your time down considerably. But I mean, it looks like it's working.
It's
You're
working.
having fun, right? Were you having fun doing it?
I was the fun for me was learning how to get it to the point where
Yeah.
it was producing the expected results.
There we go.
Like any good scientist,
Yeah.
let's,
you'll keep doing until you get the results that you want,
this off.
or not.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to leave the light on. I want to make sure there isn't something jammed in the neck of that small funnel.
The light looks like it's on
It seems to be
the
clear.
side there.
So
I,
that was a 20 mesh screen, or what's in
Hang on.
here is minus 20. So
I attached it to the side with some Velcro.
Okay. Do you like the side position better? Because I mean, I'm always looking for input here.
I like the side position. There's two things that I can. Well, the how in this one you put the little holster on it. So if you can fit a holster, that would be nice instead of using the Velcro. The
I
other
can
thing,
easily make a holster there.
the other thing I'd recommend is I noticed you took out the screw that holds the battery cover.
Yeah, those battery covers don't come with the screw anymore.
Oh,
I buy
okay.
them 4-pack, and the screws don't come in them.
They
anymore.
need that screw because it uses any excuse to come to separate.
Okay.
A rubber band.
it's
Yeah,
way
that's what
smaller
you
than
need
the
to do.
funnel.
Yeah.
So
Rubber
I'm not
band.
sure what I'm doing wrong. I feel like maybe I'm pouring it too fast. What I did notice is there's still magnetic material in there, and I found that the best way to get that out is move your pay dirt out of the way, or your concentrates out of the way, move the magnetic over, and then pull the roly-poly out of there. And that reduces the magnetism, and then you can take a brush and kind of clean all those ridges and things out in there. So you got all the magnetics. Okay, so I feel like I'm doing this at the slowest possible rate. I'm sure this runs much faster, and with a little time and experience, I'll be able to run it much faster. So we were at 10 3/8. From 1 pound, we went down to 10 3/8. So let's see where we are now.
It was actually 10 7/8, but I corrected myself.
So we went, oh, that's not right. I didn't tear it. Hold on. Needs to be minus.
So, just to let you know that when may think that took a long time. But
No, lean back from your computer because your microphone is trying to mute you. Go ahead.
So you might think that took you a long time, but the guys out in the field, when they have to deal with that black sand stuff, that's the fastest possible way of doing it good in the world.
Yeah. The other option is panning through it, right? I mean,
yeah, there's a couple other tools there to just get it everywhere.
Yeah.
So I mean, I didn't realize how handy this thing was until I started showing up to my customers' operations where they've got, dredges and trommels and tractors. And, and they're just like, take my money. You're not
Right.
charging enough for this thing. And I'm
Right.
like, really? Like, okay. And
Yeah,
so,
I noticed that you have another industrial quality product on your site now that looks like it was designed for the guys that are producing a lot of output.
right.
This works perfect for what I'm trying to accomplish and what we're trying to do on this channel, because it was, it was a minimum investment. If I have to, you can take it out of the field and run it on a power pack. It doesn't draw a lot of amperage. And so you could run it all day if you needed to, if you were out in the field. So let me finish up this video real quick.
So we went from 10 3/8 to 5 ounces. That means we reduced the pay dirt by 5 3/8 ounces. So 10 3/8, 5. So this should be, 5 1/4 or 5 2/8. So there's a little bit measuring. So in this case, I actually had more magnetite in my specimen, in my sample, than I did pay dirt. So that means those are all concentrates that I won't have to pan out or put through the sluice. Okay? Leave your comments, and if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments box below. I will put a link to miningmagnets.com and a link to this product. And don't forget, he offers a 10% discount for veterans. I'm sorry, 15% discount for veterans.
okay?
And if you're not a
Got to make that pitch.
veteran, use the code
3 times.
Garage,
It's like the phone numbers.
and Colter will give you a 10% discount. So
Say your
I
phone
thank him
number
very
10
much for
times.
that. And thanks for this product, Colter. I look forward to discussing it with you.
There you go.
No, we don't need
Move
that.
it. There you go.
So yeah, that was my. So I spent the afternoon. There's a point at which Shelley always calls, and she says, "What time do you want me to come over?" And when she called, I was right in the midst of another failure before, I actually made this video. And I told her I've used up a couple of action batteries trying to make this video, getting this thing to cooperate with me. And I never got past the problem. I did, had the problem of the last time you and I talked, you talk about a 20 mesh screen. And so that's what I used. And I think that's a little big for that smallest. And I want to use the smallest because I think it puts it through at the right pace. That's what I liked about it. I tried it once by going to the medium, and it just went so fast. The magnetite side was filling up the magnet and actually splashing out the wrong. Yeah, I made probably not every mistake that you could make with this, but I'm going to guess 50% of the mistakes that you could make with this product, I made at some time this afternoon. So
Yeah. So can I give you some feedback?
absolutely.
Okay. And the first thing, when you talk about, I had more magnetite than I did. What did you say, Blonde sands? Or
I called it pay dirt, but that's
Yeah,
not the right term.
So you want to mention that it's by volume or by weight and not by
Right.
volume. So that's kind of a thing that if you're talking to other guys that are in the field, because if you're going to put a scale on there, that's one thing. If you're going to measure it in a beaker, that's another thing. And the second suggestion I have is that you put a pan or a baking pan or a tub around that general area, or a tarp or something. Is your shop floor concrete or carpet?
It's concrete.
Okay, so if you sweep that up and you pan out what you swept up, you will find gold in your dustpan.
It
It gets everywhere.
It does get
Like
everywhere.
glitter.
And we were doing it on our works. We actually tried to do this in the studio last night, and the only thing, and I laid a paper down. And thankfully, I did that because I actually found our first 2 gold flakes
Yeah.
in that paper. That's the video. Did you see the picture that I sent you?
I did. I was going to use that I was going to post that on my.
Yeah,
on
feel free.
social media.
I was just teasing you. We're not gonna pitch it that way. But those were the first 2 gold flakes that were found after I was cleaning up the mess that I made. But yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah,
you-
you really want to. It's concentrates. It's concentrated gold. It's sacred. You know, it is something that it came from, you know, it came from a ton or more material that had been run through a machine that you couldn't even imagine to figure out how much they cost, you know, hundreds of
right.
thousands of
Yeah.
dollars, or you know, sometimes it's just $6,000. But it's definitely, there's been a lot of work put into it before that. And it I have an employee that comes over, and we put things together and we shoot videos, and when he sweeps the floor, it goes into a special bucket
Yeah.
that
No, no.
I pan out, and I find a lot of gold in there.
Mm.
So just whenever you're working with concentrates, you know, luckily this isn't like bad for you,
Right.
you know. Sometimes, like, if you could imagine it being acid and that stuff splashing all
Right.
over everywhere, that's not a good sign. So just, you know, that's kind of a, you know, a little, you know, just a pointer, you know, just a handy pointer. You know, you got through that stuff. I would suggest running it through, you know, with the medium one, and then rerunning the black stuff through the small one.
The smaller one.
Just, you know, just to get the volume down, and then, you know, so you'll start with a gallon, and then you'll run it really fast through. It'll turn down into a cup, and then that cup's got a little bit of the blonde and most of the black, and then you run it real slow, just that cup instead of a whole gallon through the little skinny funnel, and that'll speed up your process.
Well, you'll be
Quite a
happy
bit.
to know that I did take the, I don't know what to call it, the pay dirt exclusive of the magnetite, right? And I reran that.
Mhm.
And I got a couple of magnetite flakes out. So it did a really good job of cleaning it out on the first pass. The second
Sure.
pass didn't produce much of anything.
Right, and that's why I always say to do the second pass, the second run of the magnetite at a
Yeah.
slower speed than the
Right.
first pass. But yeah, that, you know, you did pretty good. That's what it's supposed to do. Usually, what happens is the gold miners will go out into the field, like the dredgers, and then while they're out working and digging buckets and stuff, their wife is running this machine, you
Uh-huh.
know, all, you know, and, you know, just, you know, she's got the radio on, or, you know, reading a book or whatever, and just keeping it filled. And it's nice that you don't really need a lot of skill to run it. You know, you basically, once you kind of get the operation of it down, it is good. Is if not better than if you were to have to pan it. Now,
Right.
a professional gold miner would never let his wife, that, you know, doesn't care about it, as, you know, because usually it's just his hobby, you know, and she's more into just being out in, you know, nature with him, and things like that, you know. So that, you know, you want to get that last micro gold, you know, and you don't you want to really, you know, give that you don't really want to, you know, give the hardest job to, you know, to somebody who would probably, you know, could, you know, go to the store and buy more gold, you know, on the old debit credit card, you know.
Well,
So
I've learned the valuable lesson that you mentioned, and that is you just made a mess going through this process. And I found that the most valuable tool that I had was a clean paintbrush, so that I could just start sweeping up
yeah,
around the mess that I made, because
Yeah.
I wasn't about to let any of that go.
yeah. Yeah, and, you know, it's just nice to be able to just not have to think about it. You know, you just
Yeah.
put it in, and it does what it's supposed to do. And but if you were to, have, you know, it would be interesting that if you were to take a scoop of that stuff, maybe even a teaspoon of it, and tried to pan it out in front of the camera. You know, just say, hey, I'm going to separate out a teaspoon of this blonde sands from the black sands,
Right.
and then maybe even make a time lapse video of it, where it takes you, you know, however long it takes you to do
It'll
that.
take a long time for me. I mean, it would take
Guaranteed.
longer than the process that I went through.
Yeah,
just-
and that's what the guys used to have to do is they would literally have to take a teaspoon of that material at the campfire after working all day long
Mm.
and pan it back. So when you solve that problem for somebody, it's a very
So give me an estimate. If I took that, what was it, 5 ounces, 5 7/8 ounces
mhm.
of the finished stuff, and I put it through this, how much am I going to end up in the dream mat
Oh,
of the 5 ounce?
that dream mat, it works amazing. You will what's interesting about it is pretty much no matter how much material you run through, you'll still have the same amount to pan out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you'll probably have about a shot glass full.
Wow.
And if you were to not take the magnetite out, you'll still get a shot glass through, but you'll have to wait considerably longer in between scoops. So you'll put the first scoop in, and if there's a lot of magnetite, it takes a long time for the water to expel the magnetite. But
Right.
if you don't have any magnetite, you're just trying to scoop as fast as you can almost,
Yeah.
and it still have that same shot glass of material to pan out. It just took you way less time to get to that point.
Right. Right. Let me show you the couple of pieces of gold that after I made the mess last night and I swept it all up with a paintbrush, with a dry paintbrush. I noticed there's a lot of mica in that particular pay dirt. But I noticed I've seen gold flakes before, and I noticed there was a couple. So I put it under the microscope. This is what it looks like. So those are a couple of Idaho dredge concentrate gold flakes under the microscope. And what's amazing to me is they look like huge nuggets because nuggets look pretty much the same way. So yeah, you're welcome to use that photo if you'd like. And when you advertise
What's that background there?
the background is actually the surface of the microscope, the surface of the stage. They call it the stage of the microscope.
Okay.
So, all right, sir. Any last words before we finish up tonight?
No, I mean,
All right.
that was great. I'm glad to get your feedback. It's I think you do a really a good job of explaining from a you know a beginner.
Yeah, you can say amateur. Use the word
Amateur.
amateur.
Yeah, that's probably the word I'm looking for. An
Beginner is
amateur,
also
because
good.
you know you're showing me what my customers have to go through when they get the product, and
Mhm.
I think you almost sugarcoated it a little bit, you know. So I do appreciate that, because I very rarely get to see the insight of somebody who's just testing something out for the first time. I mean, everybody perfects it eventually, and
Mhm.
they rant and rave after that.
Yeah.
It's like riding a bike. You see guys doing flips and stuff, but you don't see them when they're 12, skinning up their elbows and things on that bike. So um so I saw that there were some pain points that I typically don't get to see.
Mhm.
And that right there is huge for me, because the 15.0 is coming out, and probably June is usually when I release those ones. And so I kind of want to incorporate some of your suggestions, something that I saw there. The light, the holster where it's at, the location, that would make it assembly easier for me to
Yeah.
put it
Yeah.
there. It's handier for the customer. I like that. So I want to thank you, for the feedback. So this has been good
Well,
for me
I
too.
want to get you to make a promise to come back next week, because between now and next week, there's a lot of things going on. We're actually traveling down to New Mexico Tech University,
Mhm.
New Mexico
Yeah, that's right.
Technology and Mining.
Institute of Mining, and Technology.
At Socorro. We're actually going down there to do a New Mexico day trip on the Minerals Museum that they have down there, which is where that woman that you and I have had a conversation works. We're going to see if we can find her when we're down there. But afterwards, Shelley and I are going to a canyon, a box canyon that I do a lot of drone photography in, and we're going to go there. And I've seen some spots in the washes where there's always black sand, and we're taking our bucket and our classifiers, and we're just going to dig a half bucket of black sand and bring it back with us.
Do it. That's the best part of prospecting is you're putting a data point on that map.
Yeah.
And you're going to talk about it with your buddies, and you're going to learn something.
Guaranteed. I got if I get 5 flakes out of it, I'll feel like, my dad was right. He used to say, you can find gold flakes in any wash in New Mexico, he used to say.
Well, at least your gold pan works.
So,
right?
Brian says professional amateur. That's it. I have spent my retirement becoming a professional amateur at anything I can find that gets my interest. So,
yeah, and I want to mention Mary and Brian. Thanks, and Sparkplug. Thanks for commenting and joining us too. You guys, as the viewers, you make this happen. So it's good to see that you guys are commenting there. That's awesome. So.
Well, we're getting back to this side. This was a channel that had nearly 7,000 subscribers on it, and we had to let it go after the Fen treasure was found. But we want to get it back, take advantage of it, and it's a good little channel. So.
Well, when I come back to New Mexico, we'll be finding some treasures. I saw some guys looking for arrowheads and stuff, but I'll show you how to find gold. I guarantee you. We'll bring my frontier sleuths, and I'll bring my fancy maps, and we'll get some treasure.
You tell us where, and I've got plenty of people who watch our shows in various forums who live in New Mexico and come out here. Maybe one of these times I'd also sometime like to make a trip to Arizona, because I know there's a lot of placer deposits in Arizona as well. So,
yeah.
But if let's get you down to New Mexico, and if nothing else, I can video record. We can make a couple of shows out of you doing your thing. So.
Yeah, it'd give me an excuse to go visit my mom. She lives in Albuquerque, so
Well, Shelley's in Rio Rancho. I'm in Bernalillo, so.
Yeah.
And I've got a spare bedroom, so if you need a place to stay, you're welcome.
Yeah, I might take you up on that.
So.
Awesome.
All right, sir. Thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking the time, and we look forward to talking to you next week. Once I get this wash plant built and I start running, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to keep testing it until I get it right, and when I get it right, then I'll have a video that I can share with you.
Well, thanks for bringing me along, and nice meeting you, Shelley and Toby. I know we'll be in touch very soon.
Oh, we will be. Absolutely. Take care.
All right. Thanks again.
All right, guys. I think that's it for tonight. Again, for those of you that may have any questions about what Colter produces and his manufacturing work, his 3D manufacturing work, that I just think is outstanding. Literally, as I said before, it was seeing his work and what he was doing with these tools that got me interested in at least taking a shot at it. And so I bought some of his equipment, and I'm going to get good at using his equipment, because I think it's going to be very helpful in what we're planning to do with this channel.
Yay.
No? Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting to find those teeny tiny pieces of gold. I mean, we didn't, we were kind of getting disappointed in our ineffectiveness at doing this. And then Toby found those and was like, well, they're pretty little. I don't know. And then he put them under the microscope. Then they were more exciting.
Anything under a microscope
is more exciting.
Is more exciting.
That's right.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us tonight. Don't forget, you can see us on New Mexico Day Trips on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. And this week we'll be going down to, as I said, the Minerals Museum at
New Mexico Tech.
New Mexico
Institute of Mining and Technology.
Institute of Mining and Technology. So they have one of the finest mineral museums, if not the finest minerals museum in the state. And then we're going to go look for some dirt. For lack of a better way to describe it.
Blonde
dirt.
Sand, black sand, dirt,
black sand,
pay dirt,
so
all kinds of things.
And that will be on next week, because as I said, I had not promised, but I told Colter that my plan was to take this, turn it into a wash plant, and then run some of that material in it. And it's got that.
Looks like it's related to Gypsy on Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Oh, you mean with the,
Yeah.
this plant, I'm sorry, this mat, this gold collecting mat is supposed to be the cat's pajamas right now. So I'm glad he included it. And once you're done, basically what you do is you pop it out here and you drag it out. Don't spill any of the gold. And that's what you wash out. And that's where your gold should be. So gold and a little bit of black sand. Black sand is the curse of gold miners everywhere.
That's
I
why
guess.
you get it out of there.
So we're going to get it out of there. And by next week, I should have a vial of or something of gold to show you that
That I can wear around my neck.
we're going to put it in
Can
bed. I'm going to
tell everybody about
I'm going to
it
make a pendant for her so that she
Yeah.
can wear it.
so that people
it
can
around her
ask
neck.
questions.
So,
What's
all right,
that?
guys, I think that's it for now. Last thoughts.
Thanks for joining us tonight. As Colter said, we do appreciate you when you show up and make comments. It's why we do this, and you make it a party. So thanks for showing up, and we'll see you again next week.
We will have a good week, guys.